Well, welcome everybody. I hope everybody is doing very well today. My name is Chris Reyna and I am here with you today live for Cruinniú on behalf of DLR, Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Libraries, and we are going to do some juggling. So, just to start off, I suppose, introduce myself. As I say, I'm Chris Reyna and I have a company called MakerMeet. And we do lots of different kinds of STEAM workshops. And STEAM is just an acronym for science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. So, doing some juggling. So you might question what exactly is the science or the technology or the engineering, or the arts, or the maths in juggling. It's just juggling, isn't it? Well, that is true. But as part of STEAM, we also like to get people up and moving to do things. We are makers. We make stuff. And one of the things we like to do is we like to explore mathematics and how mathematics are used. And juggling is all about mathematics. Now, we won't be doing any maths today, we'll just be doing some juggling, but maybe if we meet in person at some point, we can show you the actual mathematics involved in juggling, because it's very, very interesting, and I'm going to teach you how to juggle. So, the only thing you'll need is something to throw in the air. Probably tennis balls are a really good start, but they don't have to be tennis balls. You can use all different kinds, and I'm going to show you some different kinds of ones that I use and things like that. So just before we get started, you'll notice I have some rings and a watch on and things like that. It's probably a good idea actually to take those off. So if you happen to be wearing any rings, okay, or a watch, just take those off. So I'll take these off and I'll put them right over here. Go. And it's better to kind of have clean wrists and clean hands, just because you will be using your hands and you will be dropping things in your hands. And sometimes when that happens, your fingers swell up and then your rings can be tight and hard to get off. So we don't want any damage to your hands and things like that if you're wearing some rings. So after that, just give yourself some space. If you're watching from a classroom, then definitely move out and give yourself some space. So as you can see here, if I take a step or two back, I have about that much space. And that's a good amount of space, I think. That's kind of what you need. So you need that and you need that as well, okay? That kind of space. After that, you should be okay. So I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine who is also going to help us with juggling. And in fact, this friend would not in any way, well, I suppose it's not that they wouldn't, but we wouldn't in any way be able to do our juggling without my friend. And my friend is right here, right there. That's my friend. Probably wondering what I'm doing. That friend is gravity. So without gravity, we wouldn't be able to juggle. And gravity is both our friend and sometimes, unfortunately, also our enemy as well. Because when we have things in our hands and we throw them in the air, if we don't catch them in our hands, well, then they fall to the ground, and that's when gravity is our enemy. But by the same token, if we took something and we threw it in the air and there wasn't any gravity, well, it would keep going all the way up and we wouldn't, in fact, be able to juggle either. So gravity is going to be your friend, and you're going to learn about gravity, not how it works, but you will, when you start juggling, drop the objects that you're juggling, and you'll drop them frequently. And you shouldn't ever worry about that, okay? You really shouldn't. Juggling is, as some friend of mine once said, 90% dropping and 10% showing off. The rest of it is just practice. So, without further ado, I have a table over here, and I have a lot of objects on my table, and I'm just going to start off with one of these. So this is just a tennis ball. nothing fancy in that, just a regular tennis ball, okay? And I'm going to show you some of the equipment that I use to juggle with, and then we'll actually start doing the juggling. So this will only take a couple of moments. It's just to kind of show you the kind of different bits of kit that are out there. So as I say, a tennis ball is a really good place to start. So tennis ball is a great place to start. They're not too hard on the hands. They bounce, which is good. So sometimes you can bounce it off the ground and catch it. And if you hit yourself on the head or anything like that, tennis balls don't hurt too much. Okay, they don't hurt too much. So I have some tennis balls here. I happen to have 4 of them. Okay, I happen to have 4 tennis balls, and that's fine. And we might use those in a moment, but you don't have to use tennis balls. So you can use anything. In fact, sometimes balls, because they bounce and they roll, can be really frustrating when you're learning to juggle, because balls, when they roll, means you have to chase after them, or then you have to bend over and pick them up, and they can be a little bit frustrating. So sometimes bean bags are a really good thing to start with as well too. So if you have bean bags, or you can get someone to make you bean bags, or even if you got something like rice, although rice can be a bit messy if they break, and put it in a plastic bag and then wrap some fabric around it as well too. That can be a very good starting point as well, because bean bags, when they drop, they just drop and they don't bounce all over the place. But for today, we are going to use balls. So here are another set that I have, and these actually are just dog toys. So I picked these up in a Euro shop somewhere, and they're just dog toys. They're the same kind of tennis balls. They just look like tennis balls, and they're made for your dog. So sometimes tennis balls can be a little bit expensive. You might pay a couple of euro per tennis ball, and that can be a little bit expensive, but usually dog toys like these can be a little bit cheaper. And I have another type here. Okay, so these are just sports balls. Okay, now these would not be ideal for juggling, and the only reason for that is because they're very light. They're really, really light, and actually when you juggle, the heavier the object, the easier it is to juggle. And the reason for that is, in case you couldn't guess, is a heavier object moves more slowly than a lighter object does. So these, okay, these tend to move really fast. Okay, they tend to move really fast. And if they ever bounce off each other, they just go flying away. Whereas a heavier object might just bounce and drop. And that will make it easier for you to juggle. So that's another type of ball. And just to grab these as well, I actually got these very recently, just in a Euro shop again. Euro shops are great for things like this. And these are very much bouncy balls. These are really squishy balls, if you can see me squeezing that ball, okay? And these are also really good for juggling. These are excellent. Now, these are very bouncy, but just because they're bouncy doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. They're also a nice weight. They have a nice weight to them. Okay, they have a nice weight. So I'm only going to show you one more set, and that are these. And recently I got these. These are nice. These are lovely ones, if you can kind of see that there. Yes. So these are kind of twirly ones. They have a liquid inside. So this has gold inside, and that has kind of a green sparkly liquid inside, and that has a purple sparkly liquid inside. And again, these, I actually picked these up in Tiger, Flying Tiger, and they were 50 cents each. So that makes these really, really good balls for juggling as well. Okay, so let's put those away. Now, let's go to these. So these are kind of professional juggling balls. Now, they're not really very different. The only difference is between these and the others is, I don't know how to explain this exactly. So these are made from rubber, okay, as opposed to, let's say, tennis balls, which are not. And the white, very light ones, those are just made from a very hard PVA plastic. But these are rubber. They are a little bit squishy. They're a little bit squishy. But the rubber that they're made from is a special kind, It's not sticky, but it does tend to grip very, very well. Okay, it does tend to grip. So even if you were just about to drop a ball and your finger might just touch it, the ball might roll back and fall into your hand. Okay, so these are professional ones. Now, they don't all come like tennis balls or these in the same size. So let me give you another example. I showed you these. Okay, they were the dog ones. They're made for puppies to throw for them, but you can also get dog ones in a larger size. So just to maybe give you, actually I better show another one of an example. So that's the difference between the two. So there's a smaller one on top and a larger one on the bottom. Now the larger ones are not easier to juggle. They're harder to juggle. But if you're kind of like me, I have kind of biggish hands, so it's not too bad for me. I can hold these in my hand. It's not too bad. And I can juggle these then as well too. Okay, but that does take some practice. Okay, so that will take some practice before you can get to that point. But even the professional ones also come in that size. So there's a set of professional ones, and here is the dog one that I was showing you. Okay, so there's a set of professional juggling balls. They're just like the others, and again they're made from kind of a special rubber. Okay, and that's a dog one. So you could start with these, and again you'll find those maybe for about €1 each in a kind of any Euro shop. Those, they're about €5 each maybe, so they're quite a bit more expensive. Okay, now the last thing in terms of juggling balls I want to show you is just this. So this is a lovely ball, and as you can see there's my image upside down in it, so that is refracting the image through it. Okay, and if I turn that, that's that. So this is a very special kind of ball. It's not glass. Everybody thinks they're made of glass. It's not quite glass. Now if I dropped it on concrete, would it shatter? Yes, it would. But it's not glass. It's not made from glass. It's made from a silicon. Now, it's not sticky in any way, but this is used for what's known as contact juggling. So this is used for what's called contact juggling. And one of the most famous, I can only point you, if you've never seen it, and you may not have, because it's a very old movie called Labyrinth. And there is a gentleman in it who is a singer who has sadly passed away called David Bowie. And he does contact juggling in that movie. And contact juggling is where the ball never leaves your hand. Okay, and I'm not a very good contact juggler, but I can do certain things. Okay, but the ball never leaves your hand. Okay, it never leaves your body, or at least not for very long. All right, and you can do very, very interesting things with a ball like that. All right, so without any further talking and waffling on, let us start juggling. So I'm going to use, I think I'll use my professional ones because it's just easier for me. All right, and I'm going to take one ball. So if you're joining in, I all want you to grab just one, and we'll start with just one ball. Now, everybody wants to start with two. And I know that everybody thinks they know how to juggle. And some people do, of course, know how to juggle. But I just want to start very simply first. So one hand and one ball. And what's going to happen is I'm going to throw this ball and it's going to make an arc in the air. So what's going to happen is that ball is going to go up like this, generally pass around my face, and then land in my other hand. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing then. I'm going to take this ball, I'm going to throw it, and it's going to land in that hand. Okay, so that is the very first thing that you need to do. Now I know you all know how to do that. I know that, but trust me on this. If you can learn to do this, this is all you need to know how to do to juggle balls. Okay, so throw it. Now don't throw it too high. Okay, so throw it about the arc that I said, about there. A very good way to test is this. If you hold it out in front of you, you keep your eyes straight, but do not look up and don't look to the side. So you have, everybody has what's called peripheral vision. So our eyes can actually see things that are here. So I can still see my hands here. I move back a little bit actually. So I can still see my hands here. Okay. Now, so I'm going to tell you when I'm still looking forward, so about there, I can't see my hands anymore. So I don't know. I'm wiggling my hand here, but I can't really see it. And I'm wiggling my hand here and I can't see it. So the same is true if I bring my hands up. So looking still straight forward, I'm not looking up, looking straight. I now can't see my hands anymore. So that just means that's as high as you should throw the ball. So right about there. So you should never throw it higher than that. You should always be able to see it in your peripheral vision. Okay, so here we go. All I'm going to do, throw up, catch. Throw it up, catch. 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 And I know you're all going to do that, and you're going to do it very successfully and very quickly. And you're going, this is the most boring lesson in juggling I have ever had. However, again, I ask you just to trust me for the moment, okay? Just trust me for the moment, okay? Now, you're going to throw it with your, I'm using my right hand. I'm sure the image is reversed for you, but I'm throwing it with my right hand, up and catch. Now I take my left hand, I throw it up and catch. Up and catch, up and catch. I would like you to try to do that 20 times in a row. Now, there are some subtleties to doing juggling as well. You will notice my hands are about shoulder width apart. They are not that close. So I'm not doing this, because that's not juggling, that's barely even passing a ball back and forth. Your hands need to be about shoulder width apart, and your shoulders dropped, relax, okay? And just throw it up and catch it. Now, the trick is that you are doing that same motion with both your hands. Both your hands are doing the same motion, okay? Now, everybody at this point will want to move on to 2 balls, and that's okay. You should do that. So I'm going to get a second one, and when you do 2, okay, all you do is you start 2 with 1 in each hand. 1 in each hand, okay? Now, when I do 2, again, I'm just going to show you. You throw 1 up, it's going to follow that arc, and it's going to land in that hand. So that's all I want you to do first. I don't want you to throw the second one. So I'm going to take the red one, I'm going to throw it up in the air, and I'm going to catch it in this hand. But I'm not going to do anything with the blue one yet. So take the red one, we throw it up, and we catch. Now I expect what's probably happened now is that a number of you have dropped them. And that's quite okay, because that's what happens. Okay, that's what happens. It's very difficult to actually try and catch, and especially, again, it's a little bit easier for me because I have biggish hands, right? But so when I catch, I can hold 2 in my hand very simply, all right? So you have to get used to having those 2 objects in your hand, all right? So you throw 1 up, catch, and then throw the same one back. Don't throw the blue one yet. The blue one is just sitting there resting for the moment. So throw the red one back and forth. Just the red one for me. Okay? Back and forth, that's all. Now, I know you're very excited and you want to get to the throwing the 2. So just watch this first. So I have 2, and I'm going to throw the red one, and it's going to go in that arc again. But when you throw the second one is very important. If you throw the 2 at the same time, this is what will happen. They will both go up in the air, and they will meet in the middle and hit and fall down. So you have to throw it halfway through. Sorry, you have to throw the second ball halfway through the throw of the first. So it's going to be like this. You're going to throw the red. It's going to go halfway up. And when it gets to that point and just starts to come down, you throw the blue. Now, here's where the mathematics kicks in. And this is a very interesting thing. So what will happen is those balls won't hit, but the red will continue and the blue will come up and they'll just miss each other until the blue is halfway up. And then that will continue down and you'll catch that in the other hand. Okay, so let me try that. And you watch me for a second. Don't do it yet. Just be patient. Trust me, be patient. So I'm going to throw the red one first and then the blue. And it looks like this. And I'll take a wee step back so you can see it a little bit better, hopefully. Okay, so there's red, blue. Okay, so now I'll do blue, red. I'll start because I'm right-handed. I'll start with my right hand. Blue, red. Red, blue. What everybody does, and I'm sure some of you are doing this right now, is everybody does this. And I'll move closer to the camera so you can see it. I'm not going to throw them, but everybody throws one, and then the other one, they pass over like that. They pass over. And that isn't right. I have to tell you now that that's not correct. Okay, so you, just like we started with one ball, and we learned how to do the one, to go back and forth, and I know that seemed terribly boring, but you were making that motion with this hand as well, the back and forth. At no point did you pass it over. So you want to throw both. And this is the very first difficult bit of learning to juggle. So you want to throw the red and then throw the blue. So throw the red, throw the blue. Okay. And you can start with the red every time if you want, or you can start with your right hand every time if you want. It doesn't matter. So red, blue, 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 red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, blue, red, blue, red, so on and so on and so on. And that is 2. Now, it is difficult to get to that point. Okay? Trying to train your brain to forget about the first one that you throw. So you forget about the first ball that you throw. Trust it's going to head in the same direction that it should be, and it's not going to go crazy and suddenly hop on a bus and drive to Dublin. It's not going to do that. Okay? The ball is going to go in the same direction that it should always travel. Forget about it when you throw it. It's going to keep going no matter what you do. The laws of physics will dictate that that ball will continue. If the ball does not continue in that direction, then the laws of physics are broken and we're all in big trouble. So throw that ball, and then when it gets about halfway, this one, throw that one as well, and then they'll pass each other and they will land where they're meant to be. So practice that for a couple of moments. Okay, practice that for a couple of minutes, because that's a hard thing to get, to try and do that. If you're having difficulty in doing that, okay, if you're having a problem in doing that, it's just not working for you, then all I want you to do is drop the second ball. So hold the second ball in your hand, take the first one and throw it, and rather than throw this one, just drop it. But do catch this one. And that's okay. The whole point is to get this ball out of your hand. Okay? And the other thing you could do is just throw it. I don't care how you throw it way up in the air, throw it off to that side, throw it off to that side, but get it out of your hand. Okay? That's the point. And after you can get it out of your hand, take the next step to just throwing it, and then swap your brain back to your first hand catching. And this is where this takes a lot of practice, which juggling does take a lot of practice. So just practice for a few minutes, off you go, okay? So you practice for a few minutes, I'll practice for a few minutes, because it's always good to keep practicing your juggling. And that's the only way that I know how to juggle. Was I taught by the master of juggling? No, I was not. I was taught by someone who knows how to juggle, and I just did a lot of practice. That's all I did. Okay, so just keep going and practice. Okay, just practice. Okay. Keep practicing. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water while you keep practicing, and we will come back in just 2 seconds. Okay, now let us go back to where we were before. Okay, I hope you got on well with that. Again, it just takes practice. So I'll just alert you, I suppose, to another thing that happens. So what can often happen as well is even when you start to get the two, and that's okay, what can happen is this, right? And I won't be able to exactly show you just because of the physicality of a camera in a room and things like that. But what will happen is when you start to juggle the two, what can happen is rather than the balls going side to side, they can start to go forward a little bit. And so you find yourself juggling and doing this and running forward to try and catch the balls before they get away from you. So what kind of happens is this. And like that. All right. And that's really hard as well. So if that happens to you, my suggestion is what you do is you find a wall and you stand about that far. So that is that far. So it's not quite my arm stretched out. It's about halfway. And what will happen is when you're juggling, so when you're putting your hand out, your hand will automatically and your brain will automatically stop you from hitting the wall. So all that means is you won't throw the ball forward. And if you do, well, there's a wall in front of you, and all that's going to happen is the ball will bounce off the wall and come back to you. So finding a wall to practice is very useful. So I'm just going to do a little bit of juggling this way. And of course, it's not quite the same as looking at me forward, but you can kind of see, hopefully, how I'm juggling as well. Now, I'm going to pause here and just be a little bit more precise about what I'm doing as well, because you'll be able to see me from the side now, okay? So what I'm doing, and I'll just turn and I'll do it here, you'll be able to see it. So I'm not taking the ball and throwing it like that, okay? what you want to do, and this is something that just takes a lot of practice, okay? You have to practice this bit a lot. But what you're going to do, okay, is you're going to pretend that the ball is a bird. So you're going to hold on to that bird. You're not going to hold on too tight because you don't want to crush the bird. That would be a bad thing, clearly. And at the same time, you don't want to hold on to it too loosely, because if you hold on to it too loosely, well, the bird will just fly away. And you don't want the bird to fly, or the ball to fly, until you're ready for that to happen. So you hold it nice and loose, and then what's going to happen is, I'll just take the ball away. So what's going to happen is, you're going to hold it nice and loose, and you're going to pop your hand. So it's a bit like playing frisbee. In a frisbee, when you throw a frisbee, you really shouldn't throw your whole arm like that. It's all in a flick of the wrist when you throw a frisbee, and juggling is no different. Okay, it's no different. So you're going to open your hand quickly like that, and the ball should pop up in the air. Now, again, that does take some practice. Okay, it takes some practice. So let's try that. So I'm going to go here and bring my hand up, pop, whoop, and I've dropped the ball. Yeah, go for the other one, that's fine. Okay, and you're going to pop. Okay, and pop. And of course, there is a little bit of movement here like this, but not a whole arm movement, just the wrist and your hand to pop it open like that. Now, I must fetch this recalcitrant ball that went wandering, and now let's go back again. So, okay, so you've done 2, hopefully at that point. You've done 2, and you've worked your way up to 2. Now 3. So 3 is difficult, but it's not as difficult as you might imagine it to be. It seems very confusing because you have 3 things happening, they're all over the place, and you're not sure what's going to go where and when it's going to go there. But again, I ask you, trust in physics. It will work. Now, let me tell you a little trick that not everybody knows, which is this. So I'm going to take 3 balls. I'm going to add a green one into the mix. So I have a red, blue, and green. Okay, so the trick with 3, we'll start with our red here, okay, is you start off by holding 2 in one hand and 1 in the other. All right, but technically, kind of technically, when you juggle, there's only ever 1 ball in the air at any time. There's only really 1. It looks like there's 3 because that's the speed at which our eyes see the person juggling. But really there's only 1 in the air at any given time. So I'll demonstrate this. Now it's kind of hard to do because I have to slow it down really slow, and actually it's a bit like riding a bike. It's hard to ride a bike really slow. It's much easier to ride a bike fast. So it's kind of the same thing, but I'll give it a go. We'll give it a go and see. So I have a green one here, I have a blue one and a red one here, and I'm going to start with my red one. So I'm going to juggle all 3, and let's hope that the camera and everything else can pick up through the live stream and everything very easily, and you can see that there's really only 1 ball in the air at any given time. So here we go. So there's the red, green, blue. So you see there's 2. There's actually 2 in my hand every time. I'm only throwing 1 up. I'm really only throwing 1 up in the air. Now I know that's probably hard to see, and maybe if you're recording this, you could slow it down, because it's, again, it's quite a hard thing to do slowly. Quite a hard thing to do slowly, okay? So, once again, the trick is, don't forget the ball has to follow that arc, so it has to go up in the air and down. Okay, it has to go up in the air and down. And from here, it has to do the same thing. It has to go up in the air and down. At no point do you hand a ball sideways like that. Okay, do not hand the ball sideways. That isn't really juggling. Even if you can do 3 that way, although it is one of the tricks in juggling, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks in just a moment, but for the purposes of learning how to juggle, if you learn the correct way first, and then this way is a trick. So you throw one, when it gets to the middle, you throw that one. So now the green and the blue are going to pass each other until the green gets down here and the blue gets up here. And now, let's pretend I have 3 hands. The red is still over here, so the blue is coming down, and I throw the red, and that goes up, and the blue comes down. And when the red gets to here, I have a blue here, and a green hidden under my arm here. All right, so then I'm going to throw the green, and the green will go up as the red starts to come down, and so on. So that's the mind trick. Once you can do 2, you have the skill to do 3. It's your mind that you have to train from that point forward. So if you can train your brain to trust that where you've thrown the ball, it's going to go, and to be able to jump back and forth between your 2 hands. So your brain is going to tell your right hand to throw, and then your left hand to throw, and then your right hand to throw. And then in between that, there has to be a throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch. And it starts to become a little bit like a clock or a metronome that's ticking back and forth. Okay, so let's do 3. I'll start with the red. We'll start with the red all the time to make it easier. I have the blue here, and I'm going to go, the green is the 3rd one. So we throw the red. That's 1. 2, red, blue, and then 3, red, blue, green, red, blue, green. And then after that, you just keep up the process. So red, blue, green. So red, blue, green, red, blue, green, blue, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, green, and so on. And then everything else after that are just tricks. They're just tricks. Okay, so that is juggling. All right, it's just practice after that. Okay, so it's just practice. So all you really need to do, we could stop the workshop now. All you need to do is practice, and it just takes practice. It will take some time to get there. Okay, it will take some time. Now, it's worth showing you a couple of tricks, just because some of you will probably be at the point where you got that, and now you're going, this is amazing, I can juggle now, cool. So now you want to go a little bit further and do some tricks. Of course, some of you will be at the point where you're going, I can't even hold them in my hands, they keep bouncing everywhere, I don't know what's going on. And that's okay too, just practice. And by the way, it's worth noting that if anybody is a gamer of any kind on any platform, that if you learn to juggle, your reaction times in gaming, especially if you're playing FPS games, they will go up by about 10 to 20%, your reaction times, if you know how to juggle. If you know how to juggle, okay? Just because your eye-hand coordination, okay, this is what you're training. You're training your eye-hand coordination. So therefore, your reactions will get that little bit quicker. So let's do a trick. Now, I want you to watch the red one. And you know that the red one goes back and forth, and back and forth. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so the red is going to go back, forth, back, and forth. That's right, isn't it? That's right, isn't it? But what if it doesn't go back and forth? What if it does this? Yes, and I know you're all now looking at going, well, I don't really understand. There's too many hands, too many balls. Ah, it's gone crazy. What do we do? So that's okay. All right, don't worry about that. All right, that's fine. And I shall fetch these again, As always, our friend gravity has come to play, okay, because that will always happen. Okay, that will always happen. So rather than 3, we're going to go back to 2 for just a moment. All right. So let's do 2. All right. Let's do 2. So 2, rather though than 1 in each hand, let's do 2 in one hand. Now that's harder than it sounds, but when you can get it, you can do some really fun tricks. So 2 in one hand, okay, is either, and I'll turn this way, so 1 in the front and 1 in the back, or this way, which is side to side, and 1 up and 1 down. Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, so I have 2 in one hand. So I'm just going to go like this. Okay, and all I'm doing is I'm catching one and throwing the other. And I know that sounds like it's really simple and you're just throwing one. I'm making it look easy because I've been doing it for a long time. But like anything else, it just takes practice. So you're going to throw one up in the air and same thing. So instead of an arc, like it was doing before, when it now goes up in the air and gets about as high as it's going to go, you throw the other one. And one passes each other like that. And they pass each other like that up and down. That's all it is. Okay. So one goes up and one goes down. So you can see that the blue is on the left and the red is on my right anyway. Okay. Unless, of course, you swap them around and the red is on the left and the blue is on the right. Or you can swap them around again. And all that is me doing them in a circle like that. Okay, that's all that is. So when you can do that, then you can add in the third one, but you don't have to add it into the same 2. So let me grab the green and show you what I mean. So I'm going to do the green over here and the blue and the red here. So I'm going to put the green away for the moment behind my back, and we'll just do the red and the blue. So now I'll introduce the green, and we'll make sure that the green sticks to the red. And clearly, I think, if you can see what I'm doing, I am just holding the green in my hand and moving it the same height as the red, again, which gravity helped us there. So, okay, now another trick, same idea. We'll keep the green to one side and we'll do the red and the blue. Okay, but this time it's going to look more like an optical illusion. So if we do this with the red and the green, or sorry, the red and the blue, and all I'm doing, yes, that was definitely gravity helping us again, and all I was doing was moving the green in my hand in a circle between the red and the blue, So let me fetch the red, which we have here, and I shall fetch the blue, which we have right over here. And now, so those are just some of the tricks that you can do, and you can do loads of tricks. There's lots of them. And I'm sure that some of you will ask, and some of you have seen jugglers doing more than 3 of any object. Okay, so the funny thing is that for uneven numbers, such as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, so on, so on, so on. Okay, for all of those, okay, those, when you juggle, the balls cross back and forth. However, for all the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and so on, the balls do not cross. They stay in one hand. So, as I just showed you a moment ago, this is one hand with 2. So to do double that amount, all you do is 2 in the other hand. And that's how you do 4. The balls don't actually cross back and forth. And when you do 5, the balls cross. When you do 6, it's just 3 in each hand, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so I just want to show you a couple of other things. So we've seen lots and lots of juggling balls. Okay, so we've seen the different kinds of juggling balls. We've looked at tennis balls. We've looked at kind of wiffle balls, the kind of very light ones. We've looked at just dog toys, balls to throw up in the air and things like that. And I know, I'm quite sure that many of you have seen what many people would refer to as bats, but they aren't bats, they are clubs. So they are juggling clubs. And I have some of those here. Let me put those down. And I have a few, let's see, here we go, yep. So I have a few of those here, okay? So these, all right, are the next step. And I know, I'm sure that all of you want to zip on to these very quickly, but clearly you have to have a set of these in order to do that. And it is more difficult than the balls. However, it's a lot flashier and there's a lot more tricks that you can do as well. So I'll just, actually bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to check here. I'm going to pop over here to my chat and just see, does anybody have any chat there? No, I don't see, nobody's asked us anything, so that's okay. That's grand. Let's go back here now. So in terms of doing clubs, just like the balls, you start with 1. Start with 1, okay? So I'll put those down and we'll do just 1. Now, the correct way to throw these, okay, is like this. And it's probably better to show you from the side, because showing you from the front, it's very hard to see. Okay, so I will spin to the side. Now, everybody thinks that you should start holding them down here at the end. And that's just not true, really. Okay, so you don't hold it here. Okay, you hold it there and you flick it to throw it up in the air. What happens is it becomes a little bit wobbly. Okay, it becomes a little bit wobbly. And it's harder to control. So you're much better off to move your hand up to about there. And you'll notice all juggling, well, most juggling clubs have kind of one colored handle and a second colored top. And that's why that's there, is because that's about where you hold it. It's almost dead center. Not quite, because if I let go, that will fall. Dead center is actually about 2/3 of the way. If I go up a bit further to balance it, it's going to roll off my finger anyway. We won't be able to balance it. Yeah, about there. Okay, so about there. That's close to being it. Okay, so to throw them, you hold it about here. Okay, you hold it about there. Okay, so about where that ring is. And once again, it's not a big arm movement like that. Okay, the big arm movements in anything that you do, they all come later. And all those big arm movements, I assure you, are all just for show. They're just to make everything look really flashy. So if you are performing, doing some juggling somewhere, then you want that to be a show. So you want it to be very flashy. Okay, so that's all the big arm movements are for. In this case, all we're going to do is a flick of the wrist. Kind of the same as I was saying about the frisbee, when you throw a frisbee, just a flick of the wrist. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to flick this and drop it. That's terrible. I'm going to flick that up in the air and I'm going to catch it. But when I flick it, I'm going to open my hand so that it actually spins kind of right there in my hand. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. So just a flick, that's all. Okay, so that's just a flick. And of course, you then have to learn to do it with your other hand as well. So again, just a flick. Okay, but the pattern is the same as the balls. So rather than flicking it here in just one hand, you flick it over a little bit it spins in the air and comes down and lands in your other hand. Okay, so if you're going to try clubs, that's the first thing that you do. Just back and forth. And again, I probably turn, might be easier to see. So back and forth between two hands. Okay. And then two clubs, again, is exactly the same thing. So if I have two, they're the same thing. And I'll do this facing forward because it should be easier to see. So I have a blue one in my right hand and I have a yellow in my left hand. So I'll start with the blue and then flick the blue and then flick the yellow. Okay. And once again, to keep it up, you just keep going. So as soon as you catch one, throw the other. Catch one, throw the other, and so on. Now, clearly, it's quite difficult to show you. I can show you, but it's difficult still to teach you how to juggle clubs without being there in person. And of course, it's even more difficult if you don't have a set of clubs to do. So I'll just get the green one, because I have a green one as well, and a blue one. And I'll just show you the juggling of those just for a couple of seconds, just for the sake of it, because clubs are quite big. They're flashy, they're showy, there's lots of stuff you can do with them, okay? So I'm going to start off with two in my hand, and I'm going to use my fingers just to flick, if you can see that, my fingers just to flick up the green one to start. I'll do it from the side so you can see. And I'm aware that the, framing of the camera and things like that is hard because the clubs are bigger and it's harder to see them. Okay, and it's harder to see them, so that's difficult as well. But that's club juggling. Okay, so that's club juggling. And there's lots of other kinds of things as well that are kind of considered juggling, or at least in the same genre as juggling. Okay, and I'll show you one more of those because I see that we're running a wee bit short on time, as always, unfortunately. So the last thing I'll show you before we finish up is what's called poi. Okay, and poi are again considered juggling, and it's spelled P-O-I, so it sounds like koi, like the fish, or koi as in being koi, but it's spelled P-O-I, and it's poi is what they are. So eventually you can kind of make your own poi if you want from a tennis ball. So in fact, all you need is a tennis ball. And I have a couple of examples here of people that have made their own. Let's see. So here's one. Okay, so here is an example. This is one that someone made from just a bit of cloth, a lot of duct tape, in fact, and this string. But you don't even need these kind of handles on it or things like that. So let me show you what a poi looks like. Here we go. So this is kind of what it looks like, okay? Not kind of, I suppose this is exactly what it looks like, okay? I've shortened this string, so from here to there, I've shortened that just because I'm doing this indoors. I'm surrounded by lights and cameras, so, we have to, I don't want to be knocking cameras over. While that would be very interesting and fun, it wouldn't do too well for the workshop. So inside of here, this is just tennis ball. And this rope is attached to that. And this is just a bit of nylon fabric with kind of maybe two stringy bits at the end so that it looks well when you spin it. And this is all about spinning. Okay, so this is all about spinning. So a lot of poi that you'll find will have an end like that. Okay, and that end, you put your fingers in there. So many people will put their fingers in this way, so that the cord is coming down, but that is not correct. It should always be this way, so that the cord is coming up. So usually it's your index finger and your middle finger, and you would put those two in just like that. Okay, so just like that, you can see, and I'll put them all the way up like that. So I have to kind of turn my hand upside down like that. Okay, so I'll show you how these work, and if you want to try it at home. You can make your own with just a bit of string and a tennis ball. So let me show you the pattern that it works, the pattern. So the way to start is very simple. So before you even put this on your hand, okay, you're just going to point forward. So I'm pointing directly at you now, okay, and I want you to draw a nice small number 8 with your finger. That's the pattern, is a figure 8 pattern. So you're going to draw the number 8. Now, imagine that gets much bigger, so draw the big number 8. So I'm going to draw a really big number 8, so it's even going out of frame of the camera. That's all right, so a big number 8. Now imagine that that number 8 fell over on its side. So this would be what's called the infinity symbol, pretty much. So imagine you're going to draw a big number 8 on its side, as if it fell over on its side, a big number 8 on its side. And that is the pattern. That's all you need to know. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it back on my fingers, okay, coming out of the top of my hand, as you can see there, hopefully, as you can see coming out of the top of my hand. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to point at you, and I'm going to draw a big number 8. So you can see it's going around the right side, right side of my body, left side, right side of my body, left side, and so on. And that's it, okay? And I'm doing that nice and slow, okay? And again, I'm doing that with the string shortened. Normally, it would be much longer so that it stretches out a bit further, okay? But I'm doing that just like that, okay? Nice and slow. So once you do that, well, then you can move up and do the same thing on your other hand. So I have another one here, matching one, of which I have also shortened the string. So let's put that on my left hand, and we'll finish off our workshop just by me showing you this. And it won't be easy to see because I'll eventually get quite fast, and even in person it's a bit difficult to see where it's going, but you can see that I have 2. So it's the same pattern, my right side of my body, left, right, left, right. So you can see that. And that's my left hand, that's my right hand, and left side of my body, right side of my body, left side of my body, right side. So just like juggling, when you throw one ball and it gets halfway, that's when you start the second. So with poi, it's exactly the same thing. So when I start with this hand, when I get halfway, I'm then going to start with this hand. So, and I do appreciate with the camera, this is a bit difficult for you to see, but I'll show you just as an example, and then we'll go and I'll turn sideways and show you sideways, and we can move on then. But the trick to see is that these 2 chords at no point, hopefully, will ever get tangled. Okay, so they won't get tangled, all right? So if I start like that, I'm going to start actually just like that, side to side first. That way you can see a little bit easier, I think, side to side, like that. And then I'm going to start to go like this. And again, it's quite difficult to do this slowly because they will get tangled because they'll fall to the ground. But I can do it this way. And so this is facing you. So I'm going to turn, and hopefully you can see that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, you can kind of see that, I think. Okay, and I'm just doing a figure 8 pattern. And now I'll turn back to you, and hopefully you'll still be able to see that. And I'm just going to adjust what I'm doing a little bit, and I'm going to hold my hands together. And while you can't really see the ends of them, but you can certainly see that the 2 strings are going, and again, I can't really do it slow, but the 2 strings are going side to side as well this way. So rather than forward, they're going side to side. So rather than forward, they're going side to side. So that kind of brings us to the end of some juggling demonstrations and teaching you how to juggle as well. So I hope that you have learned how to juggle. And let me just check and see, are there any comments here? Do we have anything, any questions from anybody? No, that looks like we're good. All right. So that does bring us to the end of the workshop. Thank you very much for joining us and participating, and I hope you had some good learning done with learning how to juggle. And again, it just takes practice. It really does. It's not something you will get immediately, but if you practiced a little bit less than an hour for 5 days a week, you would be able to juggle at the end of it, I believe. That would probably be fine. So, once again, just to finish up, thank you very much. My name is Chris Reyna from makermeet.ie. Please feel free to go to our website and have a look at other workshops that we do. Not all of our workshops are on the website. We do a wide variety of everything from coding to robotics to building geodesic domes to juggling, clearly, and lots of other things as well. And we hopefully can come out to your school or premises in the near future, but certainly given the lockdown and COVID, we haven't been able to recently. For Cruinniú and for Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Libraries, thank you very, very much for watching, and we hope you have a very enjoyable day. All the best now. Bye-bye.